Episode number 50 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. So here's to episode 50. I am so excited and I can't actually believe that I made it this far. So starting out the podcast was almost as if the universe kind of took my hand and just forced me to do it, because I started the podcast last year in December of 2018, and it was at a time that I was so busy and had so many different courses I was taking and projects that I was doing, and it just was the craziest time of my life. And at the same time, I thought to myself, I must be absolutely nuts, because I was like, I'm doing a podcast and that's it. And I just kind of put my focus to it and just did it. And it was weird because it almost felt like I was riding this wave. And I have to admit, I started out being very nervous. It took me a little while to get used to. I actually had to write everything down and read it in order to do a podcast, which now I'm just talking. So I was so nervous. I would literally sweat in my armpits. I know, TMI, doing every single podcast. And little by little, it got easier and easier to use my voice. And as far as all of that goes, I just personally, on a personal note, feel like I have grown so much doing this podcast. It's become my little baby. I look forward to every interview that I have. I've learned so much from the people that I've had on. I feel really lucky because I guess it's kind of an excuse to get to know all these really amazing authors and leaders in the fertility world. And just by talking to them, I feel like it's made me a better practitioner of fertility acupuncture. And it has really opened my mind to the different possibilities of how to treat fertility challenges. I don't know if you notice, very rarely do I use the word infertility. I don't like to do it. I always say fertility challenges because I don't like that label, which is another thing. So what I've noticed is that I really enjoy bringing professionals on that acknowledge the mind power that we have. And it's one of the reasons why my pet peeve is hearing that women are going to doctors and are given certain suggestions that there's something wrong with them. You know, this is something that I feel very strongly about. And I've realized as I've been doing this podcast that there are definitely certain intentions that I have in doing this, and certain, I guess, repeated concepts that I make. And I repeat myself often because I know that it will definitely drive the point that we really do have so much more power as humans than we realize. And I really want to drive the point, not just to you, but I'm also driving it to myself as I'm speaking it over and over and over again. And so in that sense, I feel doing this work and getting to empower other people empowers myself at the same time. And it's a pretty cool thing. And so one of the things that I definitely realized over this time is that at the core of all of this, and I really hope that it translates, I just want to empower you. This is something that I feel really, really passionate about. It's definitely something that I hope that the energy translates. I want you to feel empowered by listening to the interviews. I want you to feel empowered when you go to the doctor's office. I want you to feel empowered knowing that your body has its own wisdom and it talks to you in its own way. And I want you to feel empowered and knowing that you are on this journey for a purpose. I know that it's difficult to hear sometimes because obviously this journey is not an easy journey and nobody would ever choose this journey. And many times when I've spoken to a lot of people that have gone through this, they see the purpose in hindsight. And when there is purpose to a challenge, it just empowers you because it makes you realize there's something that I can grow from. There's something that will make me feel better or become better, because a lot of times people going through the fertility journey end up finding out that a lot needs to get uncovered, and a lot gets uncovered and wouldn't have otherwise had it not been for the journey. So I guess really that's the core of my message, is empowerment. I want to inspire and empower you. And this is really, whether I'm doing a good job or not, I don't know. And I'm not really attached to that either. I just really want from my heart to continuously empower you and inspire you by the stories of the people that I have on, and by whatever it is that I can think of to give you at home that you could do yourself and adopt in your own life and not have to depend on anybody else really to get there. And if I am being successful in what I am intending to do, I would absolutely love to hear from you. And I have heard from a lot of my listeners, and it has meant the world to me. So if you are out there feeling inspired or getting something out of this podcast, there's nothing more rewarding for me than to hear back from you, because it really means the world to me. I want to know who I'm reaching out to. And, you know, these are things that really mean so much to me and inspire me right back. And I feel really honored to do this work. And like I said, it really was something that I was very afraid of. I had a fear of public speaking, and I'm thinking actually of doing this. It may take me a little while to collect, but I'm thinking about doing a little bloopers thing. I should have kept so many of my past recordings, but my God, I was like a mess. I couldn't get a word out straight. I was so nervous. And so for me to actually do this, many of you might not realize this, I was really nervous when I started. And it was really an amazing thing to be able to actually find my voice as a woman and somebody who's also gone through my own journey, because had I not gone through acupuncture early on, I probably would have been diagnosed with unexplained infertility. That's what I would have probably been diagnosed with. And my hormones were all over the map. Everything was really, really imbalanced. So I was lucky enough to get that early, but myself, I've been through this throughout my own experience, and to find my own power and my own voice through something that means so much to me and is so personal to me and is so personal for me to relay out to all of you has been miraculous in a way. So speaking about amazing feedback, I do want to mention it was interesting because, and I usually don't like to put attention towards something that's negative, but to me, I guess I'm okay with it because I don't really consider it to be a negative thing per se, was that I did get my first negative review, and it was a 1-star. And it was interesting because I had prepared myself mentally. If I'm going to be out here speaking in front of a lot of people, there's going to be a few people that are going to not like what I'm going to say. And I have to learn to be okay with that. It's part of the process. There's always going to be somebody who's going to say something negative or not think twice before putting 1 star. It's just part of the process. It's you could see it in the reviews of the best books that you've gotten and looked at. And it was something that I mentally prepared myself beforehand and said, I'm choosing to continuously speak regardless of the outcome. If I'm speaking from my heart and I know that my intention is to bring about awareness and hear out everybody's opinion, every guest that I have on gets to have a platform to speak their own opinion and how they see things, then that's all I can do. I think that that's all that all of us can do, but it's never worth it to worry about how things are going to be perceived, because that's always going to stop, and I'm speaking to all of you, it's going to stop everybody from speaking their own truth and from doing whatever it is that they need to do to express themselves in a way that can possibly help a lot of other people. So I found it really interesting. I did not see it as a negative, believe it or not. I know it's a negative review, but I really didn't see it as a negative, because I said, you know what? This to me means that people are listening. And if it's not resonated with one person, it may have resonated with 10 people. So for that, it's worth it. It doesn't matter. And just if you're curious, the review is actually about a guest that I had, and something that this guest said, I guess, was talking about Western medicine and pharmaceutical companies and big pharma and that kind of thing, which, you know, there's back and forth. Everybody has an opinion on it. I still think that it's great that I had the guest on speaking their opinion on what they thought was the truth in their experience and the way they see things. And I still hold strong about having many different opinions out there, and not everybody's going to agree with it, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And not everybody has to like it. It just is what it is, I guess, you know. So I thought it was definitely interesting. It was something that I kind of wanted to bring up, because it's not going to stop me from expressing what I feel. It's not going to stop me from having my guests on. I'm definitely reflecting from my own behind the scenes personal experience on this. So this is something that I'm happy to do, because it feels like I want to share my own personal self with you and have you guys get to know why I do this and what inspires me. And really, one of the biggest inspirations that I get, actually, if not the biggest inspiration, is hearing back from you guys. It's always been such a pleasure. I mean, it really is. It's the ultimate validation, because as humans, we all need it. We need to know that we're doing something that's impacting others. And hearing that something that I said resonated with somebody out there, it makes me feel so happy. And so I also, with the intention that I have to empower and inspire, I do love, and I've realized this as I'm doing this, to talk about not only the power of the mind, but the power of the spirit. And this is something that many different practitioners have different views on. And a lot of practitioners nowadays, I even see it with traditional medicine, like to keep up with the studies and the research, which I am all for. I love research. I love studies, because it really does give validation to a lot of things that we believed and now we're seeing is actually true. So it's wonderful, and I think it's great. However, sometimes we get very caught up into it, where it almost feels like we need to wait for that validation in order to utilize something that we know we've had all this time. And I'm talking about intuition. I'm talking about the higher self. I'm talking about wisdom. I'm talking about an innate aspect that we all have as humans, and we all know, and we've all had that, but we don't need to wait for scientific proof in order to utilize this innate deep wisdom that we have, and we know we have deep down in our souls. And this is something that we've had for centuries, and people knew how to use the earth, and they used it better than we do today. And they used it way before anybody had a microscope and figured out exactly what cells look like and why they function the way they do under labs, and having all of this type of scientific validation. This is something that I feel has become put on the back burner, and it shouldn't be dismissed just because we can't prove it. We are starting to see it, actually. I mean, there's a lot of studies now that are showing there's quantum physics, and there have been observations that our observation can change reality. So those things are coming to the front, and they are starting to become apparent. But we don't need them, is what I'm saying. We don't need them in order to know them, because we do have a knowing. And that knowing, I believe, is so similar to how ants know what to do and where to go in order to form this incredible community. They know, they just know. They were programmed to know. And if they weren't programmed to know and didn't trust that, they wouldn't be able to function so miraculously and so beautifully. If you ever look at ants and their colonies and how they operate, if you ever look at bees, I mean, they're brilliant. And their brilliance is that they know how to follow what they were meant to do. They know how to follow. They don't question. That's the animal instinct. You can compare instinct to intuition. We call it intuition. It's the same thing. They don't question that. And so if they did question that and they were thinking too much like us humans tend to do, it would become a mess. And you know what? In some aspects, we have become messes, and we can see it in our own life, that mess. We can see it because it's micro and macro. We could see it in the world. We can see it in our own life, and we can see how that happens, because I'm sure that all of you have had one point or another in your life where you felt two different ways completely. One way is when you were trying to force things to happen and you were questioning yourself and doubted that anything can work out. And you proved yourself right. Everything would get really, really messed up, and you wouldn't feel good. You wouldn't be happy, and things just didn't flow. And then I'm sure you've also had a moment in your life, at least one, and I'm sure it's more, that you felt this incredible flow once you surrender. And it's even better to compare one where you were like so stuck in that first example where you're stuck and going against the flow. And then you decided, you know what? I just don't have the energy to keep this up anymore. I'm just letting it go. And then as soon as you let it go, everything fell into place. And all of a sudden, you felt happier. That's always at the core of all of this, is that you feel good. And then everything falls into place just as it should. It's like incredible. So I'm sure all of us have felt that way. And to me, that letting go is almost allowing our natural tendency as humans and our natural wisdom. It doesn't work through force. When you let it go, then you go back into that sink. It's like where the ants know to go. They just know. They're in that flow. And so it's the best way for me to give as an example. It's obvious that they're in the flow because that's how animals work and insects works. It's just the way it is. I'm talking about utilizing that and embodying it as a human. And that's where there's the comparison, is when you're in that flow, you're allowing that divine intelligence, that the same intelligence that runs your body, to run your life. It doesn't stop at the body. It continues on and on and on. It doesn't stop on the earth. It continues into the sun. And the way the moon cycles around the earth, and the way the earth cycles around the sun, and the way there's cycles and summer and winter and just everything that works exactly as it should. It's programmed. We are programmed as well. We have free will and we're programmed. It's both, the yin and the yang. So this is something that I always really feel very strongly about. And that is something that I've discovered more and more as I've done the podcast, because the more I talk about it, the more I realize and discover. And it's just something so beautiful about getting to communicate over and over and over again, to communicate about something that you really feel so passionate about. And it's incredible because as you do it, you start to learn more and more, which is why I think journaling is so powerful. This is more my journaling. I do journal, but I do this a lot more. And this is a type of journaling. It's just getting thoughts out and talking and bouncing ideas off of other people. And getting to do that, I feel is, first of all, I feel so lucky that I get to do that. And secondly, I really hope that it inspires you to either find, and it's really important to find positive people, not negative people, not people that are going to bring you down. It's so important, especially if you're on the fertility journey, to be around people that bring you up. It is so important to protect and nourish your energy. It's just, I can't speak of that enough. So going back to expression, express yourself to people you can trust. And if you don't have that around you, you could probably find a lot of support groups online that can help. And there are a lot of alternatives and communities that you can find where you will find people going through the same thing. And I think that that is one of the most healing things that you could do if you really feel alone. But if you do have somebody you can speak to, and it's important to utilize that so that you could just get out your thoughts. And getting out your thoughts is almost like cleaning out the closet. You know, in order to be clear, you need to clear. You know, you can't have clarity without clearing the way. And once you do that, that's when the clarity sets in and you're able to navigate. You'll know, and your emotions will be your navigation. I think emotions are like a compass. If you're feeling lousy for a long time, there's something that you can do to shift out of that. And it's a sign to you. It's a message to you. Rethink this. If you're so much in it that you can't figure out what it is that you need, journal. Journal for three pages every morning. The morning pages, I've talked about that before. It's from the book, The Artist's Way. She talks about creativity. She says, write 3 pages and you'll start to open up your creativity. Well, guess what? The creativity exists in the second chakra. This is thousands of years of information. This is not new. This is ancient Ayurvedic medicine. And this is something that is known. It's not something that they just discovered. This is something that they're starting to realize. We have vortexes in our body. And the second chakra is the chakra of creativity. And where does that lie? It lies where the uterus and the ovaries are. So releasing that expression and writing those morning pages and releasing that energy of creativity, guess what? You're opening an energy that's going to help fertility. And it's all about expression. And we talk about the heart-uterus connection. The heart is where we express. I express with my heart all the time. The more I express with my heart, the more my heart opens. This to me is an expression of my heart. And the more I speak, the more it comes out. The more I channel, whatever it is, the energy, I don't know what you want to call it, universal intelligence gets to come through me. I get to have it come through me. So yes, I can go on and on and on about this. And I feel incredibly, incredibly privileged to get to do this. One of the things that I will say is I had to have a lot of courage to do something that was very scary for me in order to start this podcast. However, by going through that and having to get through that courage, I actually found something that is incredibly rewarding. It became like this incredible blessing and gift. And so if that can inspire any one of you, I believe that it's an opening. And I know that you're already going through something that is scaring the hell out of you. And I'm here to tell you that if you're given this situation, you have the power to navigate it. And I know this may sound very confusing, but I've seen it in hindsight. I've interviewed women. They have come through this like strong, beautiful, powerful warriors. And they became like this, I believe, is almost like an initiation. It brought them to the point they're at today. And they turned it into a life, beautiful calling, and are now inspiring so many people. And again, I feel like these people that I'm bringing on are so inspiring, and their stories are so uplifting that that's how I want the message to come through. And I hope that it really does. I really hope that some of you, even if it's one, I'll be happy, is inspired and empowered and feels stronger by listening to this podcast. So if you are, I am personally asking you, please, please, please email me. Let me know what's going on. Let me know your story. I really want to hear back from you. And I also want to say, if you guys have any questions about fertility, I would love to collect those as well. So you can email me on the contact page of www.thewholesomelotus.com. Go on the contact page, email me your stories, email me your experiences, and if you have any questions, email me those as well, because I do plan to collect a bunch of questions and create a podcast based on that. So if I do see repetitive questions or something that I think, ooh, that's a really good one, then I'm going to collect a bunch of questions and I'm going to create a podcast from it. And I will let you know if your question is picked as well. So I will get back to you as soon as you email me, and I will let you know, yes, I'm definitely going to use that question. That is a great question. You know, if it's something that many people might be able to relate to. If it's too personal, it might be a little bit more difficult. But even the personal ones, just email me the questions. I would love to hear from you. And I hope you have a beautiful day. So that concludes today's episode. You can find all the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to leave a review. Reviews are everything to podcasters. You can find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com. And please be on the lookout for my online course and program. This course has emerged from everything that I've been using for the fertility program I now offer at my office. I wanted to consolidate all of my suggestions and coaching and put it into a form that anyone can purchase and use. It was important for me to encompass key fertility health factors as well as guide you in implementing changes in your routine that are shown to boost fertility while being realistic and user-friendly. I will be offering this course with and without coaching. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com, where you can find the subscription form. I thank you so much for listening in and hope you have a beautiful day.